Hey, what's up everyone? Thank you for joining The Star, SayWhat.tv's news show for you. I'm your host, Mara Matozik, and you're tuned in for the latest stories that'll make you say what?
Say what?
As creator and host for The Star on SayWhat.tv, I'd like to share my personal story and why you can depend on Say What to be there for you. Do you ever feel like your life and future is determined by your circumstances? And even with these circumstances, you feel out of place? Let me tell you, I felt like that most of my younger life. I was born in Croatia and fled war to Mexico, where I was brought up in a small town, where it seemed like your life was written for you, and you couldn't change your destiny unless you were lucky enough to be born in the right family or know the right people. But let me tell you, against all odds and adversity, it was the right community and the fight to pursue my dreams which led me to co-found a tech startup, star in 7 telenovelas, live in New York and California, and travel the world. And if I, a war refugee raised in a small Mexican town, can do it, so can you. You just need the right inspiration and community to thrive. And that is what The Star is here for, to bring you stories where you can see yourself reflected, and to be that support system you need to get to where you want to be. The next Elon Musk? You betcha! An amazing engineer? You got it. We can make it together. Want to be a part of Say What? Stay tuned.
Say what?
Did you know Mexicans eat 160 pounds of corn a year? In this first edition of The Star, you will hear from a Latinx entrepreneur, originally from Mexico, who is building the world's first robotic tortilla factory, and he's doing it right here in the Borderplex region. Plus, you're in for an out-of-this-world story. We're giving you an exclusive inside access into Spaceport America, a 21st century space station. And then, I'm going one-on-one with a special guest who was an NBA player for 17 years. He was also the first Hispanic NBA coach. Say what? Can you guess who we're talking about?
What?
Let's catch you up with some hot news. Temperatures in California may have you feeling grateful for 100-degree weather here in the Sun City. Death Valley hit a record-breaking 130 degrees this weekend. The scorching number would make this the hottest the Earth has been in 89 years. And this weekend we're celebrating women with the anniversary of the 19th Amendment. The ratification in 1920 gave all women in the US a voice, and for that we're thankful, especially with the 2020 elections coming up. Finally, breakfast and cookie fans come together in harmony with the Girl Scouts' new French toast-inspired cookie. Could they overthrow Thin Mince's fan favorites? We'll just have to try them ourselves.
Say what?
Let me introduce you to the future tortilla king, J.R. Rosillo, a successful Latinx entrepreneur originally from Mexico, who is building the first ever robotic tortilla factory. JR shares his formula for success and also tells us how a door sign he saw while in college literally opened up several opportunities in his life.
I started a few months ago at Minerva Robotics, and we are making a robotic tortilla shop. And the reason we are doing this is because it's very difficult to find a good quality tortilla. If I have to frame it like in comparison to another business, it's like if the only cup of coffee you could get was a 7-Eleven coffee. That's good, it works. But sometimes you want something nicer, and a bunch of people want nicer things all the time. And the other reason is that tortilla shops are outdated. The technology lags about 50 years. And we want to create like a higher quality tortilla, but the process is way too labor intensive. It's very difficult. You have to train to do it for 5 to 7 years. So we just put together artificial intelligence, computer vision, machine learning, advanced manufacturing, and are creating a robot that can make tortillas pretty easily. So it's just like you push a button and then you get your tortilla. And the idea is to create a small network, a big network of nationwide small entrepreneurs that can have those tortilla shops. And they can help us build the national brand of the evolution of tortillas. Well, I guess it all depends on how far along are you. I know that many kids, many teens that see this interview may have an idea, and others will be like, wow, I can make my own business, and they will start to look for solutions and problems. So if you're starting, I guess that the biggest thing you have to do is realize if there's a pain that has to be solved. Not every idea you have will find a market, because good companies solve a problem that someone is experiencing. So there are many different ways to measure that. You can have hard metrics and soft ones. So my 2 cents on this would be to have a lot of soft metrics. You know, this A for effort. You will know if you're making enough effort to find quality and ready, market-ready solution. And then you can hop onto harder metrics like traction. How many people are buying what you are doing? How many people like what you're proposing? If you are doing customer discovery, how many customers have said, yeah, I have that problem? So it's just like when you are doing a project in school, just setting the 4 or 5 things you want to measure, and then trying to stick to them, and having like a weekly progress report where you can easily say like, yeah, I have to make 10 customer interviews. Yeah, I have made 10 out of them. Or I only made 5. Why did I miss on the other 5? So there are many methodologies that you can follow, like the Lean Startup. There are investors or VC funds that have a lot of topics and blog posts about this. But I guess that the most important is finding out if you have a customer out there and you are building a solution that they want to buy.
Say
Have you
what?
ever dreamed about going to outer space, exploring distant galaxies? What if I told you that dream is coming true and it's only a few miles away from El Paso? SayWhat.tv was granted exclusive access inside Spaceport America. See how they're engineering aircrafts just like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars?
Say what?
Spaceport America, partnering with Virgin Galactica, is the first purpose-built commercial spaceport in the world, located in Truth or Consequences in New Mexico. Let's take a look.
Say what?
So my name is Alice Carruth. I'm the Public Relations Coordinator for the New Mexico Spaceport Authority. So space is not a new concept in New Mexico. We've actually been exploring with space and technology here in the States since the 1930s, when Goddard first came down and was testing rockets in Roswell. And then at WSMA, White Sands Missile Range, they've been launching rockets since the 1940s. In fact, they're classed as the birthplace of space in the whole of the US. On top of that, NASA has had a presence here in southern New Mexico since the 1960s. They have the White Sands Test Facility and the White Sands Complex. And so space is something that we're familiar with. In the 1990s, they decided to explore the idea of commercial space in New Mexico and whether or not it was viable. So they established an office that was an agency that was dedicated to commercial space in New Mexico. And from that, the New Mexico Spaceport Authority was born back in 2006. And that's when we started work here in southern New Mexico. Spaceport America is open and ready for business. We are launching. That's the one question I get a lot. Are you working and are you operating? Absolutely, yes, we have. We have launched over 300 rockets from the spaceport since it started in 2006. Science, technology, engineering and mathematics is something that's very undervalued, we find, most throughout America. But it's the core skills in those kind of courses that are really important for future generations, whether it's critical thinking, evaluation, whether it's about balancing the books, which is very important when it comes to project management. And we need to make sure that the future workforce is ready to continue the operations at Spaceport America. We've established this here now for the last 14 years. We have over 200 full-time employees through our customers, plus the staff that operate and manage the facility here. So we need to make sure that the future generations are coming through, have got the skill set ready to come in and take over that operation and continue Spaceport America's journey as it continues. I think the G-Force simulator is probably the most exciting part of the tour for most students when they come in here. It's not going to be quite the same as getting on a spaceship and actually traveling to space, but it gives you an idea of what the astronauts go through when they train. Majority of the NASA astronauts trained on a machine very similar to this, the future astronauts and the pilots for Virgin Galactic train in the skies above us. There's constantly planes out here making sure that their G-force training is up to speed. So that's always a good fun element for them to see. We're working on a lot of things. We have 4 full-time customers out here at the moment. We have multiple other customers that come out and test. We're hoping to see Boeing come back and do some more testing at Spaceport and White Sands Missile Range. Their future Starliner capsule was tested here with a high-altitude ballooning that was released from about 70,000 feet and then eventually went over to White Sands Missile Range and landed, which is really exciting to see. Spin launch, as I say, will hopefully start their testing next year. They're going to be using the world's largest evacuated centrifuge. It's 106 feet across, it's massive. So that's going to be a very exciting thing to see when that gets launched out to space, and that'll make it a far more accessible and cheaper version of sending satellites to space, for example. And Virgin Galactic, again, just released really great, interesting information about how they're looking at future space flight from point to point. So you'll be able to take off at Spaceport America and land at a spaceport across the other side of the globe, making your journey much faster going via space than having to go through it for 35 to 50,000 feet altitude.
Say what?
The moment is here. Drum roll, please. The first Hispanic coach in NBA history is none other than Earl Watson Jr. Thank you, Earl, for joining the Star.
Hey, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here with us today. Earl, as you know, Say What is all about sharing the stories that really matter. So we're thrilled to have you here to tell your story. So please, Earl, tell us a little bit about yourself from, your upbringing to now entrepreneur passing through the MBA.
Yeah, I have a unique story. My mom is first generation Mexican American. Her parents are from Mexico. They came to Texas and, from Juarez, and eventually had her in Austin. And, that strong Latino foundation is my upbringing and foundation as far as how I was raised. And my dad is African American, so I grew up in an all-black neighborhood, which is where I learned how to hoop, play basketball, and eventually go to UCLA, graduate, and play in the NBA for 10 plus years, 13 as a player, 3.5 as a coach. So 17 years total in the NBA. And here I am now on Say What and delivering our narrative on what it's like to be, I like to call it understanding trials and tribulations and persevering through life.
I love it. Stay in the light. Stay in the light. My last question to you, Earl. I would love for you to share, for us all to understand the power of just one person, how we as people can change the course of things. I would love if you would share how you got drawn to basketball for real. Who was this one person aside from your family that made you take basketball seriously?
Well, basketball was always my emotional escape for me to deal with all of my pains and traumatic experiences as a kid. So when I would put on the jersey, I felt like everything that happened in my life didn't exist for the next 40 minutes on the court. I could be someone else. It was like putting on a cape and jumping into a play on the stage, right? You just turn into a different character. And so I started playing at an early age, second grade, and even just creating and mimicking the idea of me playing in the NBA one day was always in my mind and verbally coming out of my mouth. And it wasn't until I got into high school that I kept getting suspended. And I had a guidance counselor pull me out of a principal's office and sit me into her office. And I was in the 10th grade at this time. And I was going through so many emotional things in my life in school and out of school that I really didn't know if I was possible past 18. Like, 'cause I wasn't seeing a lot of friends living. So I was like, this is just, it is what it is. I was almost hopeless. And she grabbed me and she told me, her name was Ruth Goheen, and she told me that, she told me how special I was. And I'm looking at her like, yo, I never had anyone outside of my family my family tell me this because I had this amazing gift in sport. But for someone who had a non-attachment to me to tell me this really changed my life. And she was like, it's going to be my goal to get you academically prepared to pass your ACT and everything you need from the clearinghouse to get a basketball scholarship and to get out of here and do something amazing through sports and academics. And at that point, I haven't known anyone who've done that. And here I am in the middle of the country in Kansas City, in one of the most poorest counties in the country still to this day, where you can buy a house in downtown KCK today for $20,000 or less, thinking this is only in the movies, lady, like it don't really happen here. But she stayed with me, and she would make me volunteer my time in high school to delivering groceries and going to the grocery store and getting groceries for the battered women's shelter, going to visit the Ronald McDonald House, reading to kids, and doing community service through the school. And here I am thinking, these are not kids that I hang with. Like, these kids are like completely different from me, but she made me do it. And that kind of stuck with me throughout my life. And if it wasn't for her, I know I don't exist here right now. So if you are an educator and you are a teacher and you see opportunity, or you see anyone who you believe or who you don't believe, no matter what their school record is of like, suspensions or not, I think it's important for us to just emotionally connect to children and tell them they are possible, no matter how good or bad you think they are, because we don't know, we don't control opportunity, but we control perspective as adults, because we've lived a long life than the younger people. And we have to let them know that they are possible, no matter how hard it is, how much trouble you get into, that you are still possible. Don't give up, because like me, it could change like that. Like my grandfather, who came over here undocumented, who didn't know English, who had my mother, he didn't know his grandkid would be an NBA player and a multi-millionaire. It can happen like that. So we don't have to concede to the darkness. We can still do amazing things in the light and build opportunities and tell our narrative, because the more we succeed and tell people, the more people who don't look like us understand who we are outside of television scripted scenes, and want to give more people like us opportunity, or want to work with people like us to build community wealth and opportunity for others. So I think that's very important. I think for our community, it's no time better than now than to tell our narratives and create opportunities for the future.
Say what?
Special thanks to Earl Watson Jr., Spaceport America, and J.R. Rosillo for letting Say What share their stories. And now, we want to hear your stories. The team at Say What is giving away Say What swag. We have hundreds of shirts to give away. To win, all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our Say What app. You can download the app at saywhat.tv. In our app, post on our social media feed and share who inspires you, and say what they did to inspire you to make a difference. Whoever gets the most claps wins some swag. Thank you for watching The Star on saywhat.tv. I am Mara Matozik, asking, if you say what, we say what.